Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about this Caitlin Clark Time Magazine situation where she was named Athlete of the Year, which, by the way, I want to talk about that award itself as well, separately from the controversy, and she decided to take this occasion, when being prompted by the Time Magazine article writer, to apologize for being white, to say, oh my god, isn't it so sad that I am drawing all this attention to the WNBA for the first time ever, while at the same time having the wrong skin color? Aren't black women so amazing? Aren't they so stunning, so brave, so beautiful? Please don't call me an evil white racist for being good at basketball and being a white woman, because I really just want to fit it in the WNBA, and I'm taking the woke pill. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
So first and foremost, right off the top, I just want to make something 100% clear. The Athlete of the Year is Shohei Ohtani, not Caitlin Clark. He signed a mega deal contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He wasn't even pitching, but his hitting was off the charts. The first person to ever make the 50-50 club, which is 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases. And he went on to not only win the National League MVP back-to-back with his 2023 American League MVP award, which is, by the way, something that is very rare. First ever done in Major League Baseball, winning an MVP in both leagues, was Frank Thomas, and that was decades ago. And yeah, the man is the Athlete of the Year, clearly and obviously. He even dodged a gambling scandal in the middle of this. The guy's a worldwide sensation. He draws in so many viewers from Japan who absolutely love him. And by the way, he did all of this, achieved all of this, while he wasn't even able to pitch, because guess what? He's also an elite starting pitcher. So yeah, Shohei Ohtani should have won this award. And if Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese man, won this award and they interviewed him at Time Magazine, he would not have spent his time during that interview talking about how he was standing on the shoulders of great, beautiful black women. He would have talked about how he earned it and how he's proud to earn it, not just for him, but for the nation of Japan and Japanese baseball overall. That being said, now that we set aside the real Athlete of the Year, let's talk about Caitlin Clark.
It's got all the buzz. If you are on X, if you're on Instagram, TikTok for the young kids, you know that Caitlin Clark is the Time Athlete of the Year. How has your 24 hours been since the articles dropped?
It's been awesome, and just the reaction. Obviously, people so excited not only about women's basketball, but about women's sports, and how excited and deserving, not only myself, but just women's sports as a whole, the year that we've had. And I've grown up a huge women's sports fan, whether it was basketball, whether it was soccer, whether it was volleyball, you go down the list. Like, I grew up loving it and watching it, so it's pretty special. Like, it doesn't really feel real that I get to be here, but an amazing honor.
Now, I'm going to link the whole Time Magazine article in the description of this video for those of you who want to read it, but to be clear, the article does talk about her achievements as an athlete and all this other stuff in this extensive profile, but there's a tone shift in the article that sets up Caitlin Clark's statements that I don't believe a lot of people are bringing to you. They're just isolating her statements. But again, this is something being pushed by the writer, not just by Caitlin Clark out of nowhere, and I think that is quite notable. Let me read you the quotes from the article, the quotes from other WNBA players trying to take down her achievements because she's a white person, and then Caitlin Clark's weak, cowardly, compliant quotes about how white people have so much privilege and gosh, white people are so racist. Let me bring this to you right now. So it starts in this paragraph. Clark's segment did include a more serious moment as she thanked a quintet of black women, Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper, Staley, and Maya Moore, Clark's basketball hero growing up, for paving the way for her success. Now, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with paying homage to your heroes in your respective league, respecting the history and all of that, but then the article says the following. These stars, despite their athletic prowess, were never rewarded at the same level of attention that Caitlin Clark is now receiving. Quote, America was founded on segregation, and to this day, it is very much about black and white. Phage Bonnell, who loved playing with Clark, writes in a text message, quote, "In a sport dominated by Black/African American players, white America has rallied around Caitlin Clark. The support looks mostly amazing, sometimes fanatical and territorial, sometimes racist. It seems like the Great White Hope Syndrome is at play again." Look, to be clear, I'm not a fan of the WNBA. I'm not a fan of Caitlin Clark. I don't care about this league. I don't care about this athlete. But there's something fascinating about the fact that the WNBA can never get out of its own way. I mean, it's not just Caitlin Clark. If you look at any videos where people suggest lowering the hoop to 9.5 feet or 9 feet to make the game more exciting and have these athletes play above the rim, they also react with this insane, ridiculous, entitled attitude and end up calling everybody sexist and saying that they're just too bigoted to watch their league, while at the same time they're desperately trying to reel in fans. And I think one of the major problems with the WNBA is that it is propped up by the NBA, because if they had to sink or swim as a business on their own, then guess what? They would have to shut up their athletes and actually produce a good product on the floor and stop stirring up controversy like they're entitled to fans and viewership. But for whatever reason, they can't help but accuse the supporters of this one player that is successful, that brings an exciting game to their league, of evil white racism. And I understand there's a lot of hatred and entitlement from within the WNBA. There are a league that is largely minority, that is largely not straight, and here you have a straight white woman who has a game that's actually exciting to people, and they're going to be against that just based on the entitlement and the fact that they show this kind of attitude in every regard with their sport. But could you tone it down just a little bit? Could you back off just a step so that people can actually embrace your league, and then you could reveal yourselves to be a bunch of woke idiots? I mean, part of the reason why people get so angry on franchises that they invested in going woke is because they were good for a while and then they ended up doing this, and that pissed people off because they were attached to them. But can you let people actually attach to your league before you become insufferable? Apparently that is a challenge that's impossible for the WNBA, and this is laid out right here in this Time magazine article, even before we get to Caitlin Clark's statements. Going into the WNBA season, Wilson, a two-time league champion and now three-time WNBA MVP, told the Associated Press that she thought Caitlin Clark's race was a, quote, huge contributor to her popularity. Quote, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug," Wilson said. Quote, "That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is." So here you have the MVP of the league saying, yes, her support is about race, and it's totally unfair because the achievements of black women are being overlooked based on this person who is a white woman. And to be clear, you haven't achieved anything. Sure, you won the MVP for the third time in the WNBA, and by the caliber of player in the WNBA, you are among the better players based on the merits of that award, whatever that means. But the fact of the matter is, you brought no marketability, you brought no fan base, you brought no following. You know who brought all those things? Caitlin Clark. And if she had a dynamic and interesting and compelling game as a black woman and that fan base to the league, then people would still be interested in her. But it turns out that's not the case. She happens to be a white woman, and you cannot live this down. And again, it's not just about race. There's also a sexual orientation component to this, which was laid out by Sunny Hostin on The View.
Now, Caitlin Clark is bringing this money, these sponsorships, we hope, into the league, and other players will benefit from it. But I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive. And unfortunately, there still is that stigma of against the LGBTQ plus community. 70% of the WNBA is black. A third of the players are in the LGBTQ plus community.
But I'm sorry, you shouldn't be angry that a more broadly appealing player has risen to stardom in your league, because a rising tide should lift all boats, and that could elevate the NBA. Again, just think about somebody like Michael Jordan. He came into the league and he rose the NBA to global popularity. And again, in the 80s, there were some struggles in the NBA, and having that star, a face of your league, even though he was one player, and there were all these players historically that put in the work to come before him, and there's all this other talent across the league, ended up elevating the league. It elevated everybody's contracts and made it better going forward. But these people just just want to look the gift horse in the mouth, say, oh no, that's a white person, and then shove that aside. And unfortunately, Caitlin Clark is participating in this dance, essentially apologizing for being white. Clark is cognizant of the racial underpinnings of her stardom. Quote, I want to say that I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there's privilege, says Clark. Quote, a lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more that we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Again, this is just cringe-inducing. It's embarrassing. It didn't need to be said, and I don't like the fact that she's giving the caveat that she's earned everything, which is true, by the way. That's where she should have left it and kind of been like somebody who pushes back against this nonsense in the WNBA. But just so you guys know, even though I've earned everything and I don't want you to take anything away from me, there's a lot of white privilege in society. And you know, this league was built on black women, and we just gotta appreciate them and elevate them and get people to invest in them. And to be clear, this league, if it was built on black women, was built absolutely terribly on those people, because the league was not popular at all until Caitlin Clark showed up. But in reality, the league was built on the NBA, on NBA basketball players, on largely, disproportionately, black males earning enough money in their own respective league that as a charity, they decided to put out the WNBA, and it has failed ever since. It has been a disaster ever since. The economics are not there. They're being supported as a charity, as a tax write-off by the NBA, and now that you have a player that actually draws in attention, draws in fans, and maybe, God forbid, would make the WNBA marketable, she has to apologize for having the wrong skin color. The other players have to crap on her in every regard, and it's absurd. Now, in addition to this, Megyn Kelly did a response. She called it fake and nonsensical, so Caitlin Clark had to double down.
Earlier today, Megyn Kelly, she was saying that you were apologizing for your white privilege and the fact that you wanted to uplift black female athletes and make sure that they were getting the shine, kind of like your pioneers were getting the shine that they deserved. And I just want to know how you feel or how you respond to some of those criticisms when you have to deal with something that it's really not your problem. Like, I feel like it's them looking in a mirror a little bit, but it still comes down on your shoulders.
I feel like I always have had really good perspective on everything that's kind of happened in my life, whether that's been good, whether that's been bad. And then obviously coming to the WNBA, like I've said, I feel like I've earned every single thing that's happened to me over the course of my career. But also, I grew up a fan of this league from a very young age. Like, my favorite player was Maya Moore. Like, I know what this league was about. And like I said, like, it's only been around 25 plus years. So I know there's been so many amazing black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them, I think, is very important. And that's something I'm very aware of.
And it's just an embarrassing thing for all of us to witness. More shaming based on the color of your skin, which is just absurd. Again, especially when you consider the fact that these people all think of themselves as fighting against racism. But you know what? I'm going to leave this here. I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. Are you fans of Caitlin Clark? Were you fans of Caitlin Clark? Or are you like me, who knows that Shohei Ohtani should have won Athlete of the Year and have never watched a WNBA basketball game and never will? As usual, if you like this video, show by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Caitlin Clark. Apologize for being white. Till next time.